In the United States, every state maintains constitutional or statutory provisions that ban unauthorized groups from organizing as military units without gubernatorial approval, training with firearms or explosives when knowing or intending their use in civil disorder, or parading or acting in a law enforcement or military capacity while armed. These laws establish a clear prohibition on private paramilitary activity and public armed formations outside official state or federal military structures. As a direct consequence, public displays that mimic military organization must occur without weapons to remain within legal boundaries. Large-scale processions involving coordinated marching, rhythmic group actions, and disciplined movement therefore take place in an unarmed form, adhering to the letter of these restrictions while achieving collective cohesion and visible presence. The chest-beating ritual, known as Latmiya in Shia Muslim tradition, forms a central element of these public events. Participants, often in synchronized circles or lines, rhythmically strike their chests with open hands, sometimes raising arms overhead before repeating the motion. This occurs during religious commemorations such as Ashura or Arbeen processions, which honor historical martyrdom and express mourning through physical lamentation. In some instances, men remove shirts for bare-chested participation. In others, they wear formal attire. The action produces audible, collective percussion that reinforces group unity and emotional intensity. When combined with slow, deliberate walks or stationary formations in public streets, the ritual projects disciplined, synchronized movement that parallels military assembly or procession without violating armed parade prohibitions. In locations such as Dearborn, Michigan, these events manifest as large processions that draw tens of thousands. Participants move in organized lines along public routes, carrying banners and flags while performing Latmiya to drumbeats. The marches follow structured paths from mosques or community centers to parks, filling streets in formation that observers describe as military-like in discipline and scale. Similar patterns appear in other American cities and internationally. The absence of visible weapons is not incidental but a necessary adaptation to U.S. state laws that criminalize armed public drilling or parading by unauthorized groups. The processions maintain the appearance and function of coordinated advance while remaining technically unarmed. The real intent behind these unarmed military-style formations extends beyond religious observance. They serve as demonstrations of group cohesion, intimidation, and projection of readiness for conflict. By assembling in disciplined ranks and performing synchronized physical rituals, participants signal organizational capacity and collective will. In the context of the ongoing 2026 U.S.-Iran conflict, which began with undeclared strikes on February 28 and produced Iranian casualties, such displays gain heightened significance. Grievances from family losses or ideological alignment with Iranian positions can transform religious processions into statements of opposition to American policy. The formations project preparation for confrontation, substituting rhythmic chest beating and marching for armed advance. Weapons remain absent from these public events precisely because legal restrictions make armed parades or paramilitary training risky. All 50 states prohibit such activity, with statutes targeting knowing intent to use firearms in civil disorder or unauthorized military organization. Public armed drills would trigger immediate law enforcement response and potential felony charges. Consequently, the visible component stays unarmed, while private acquisition and storage of weapons occur separately. Legal naturalized citizens or permanent residents can purchase firearms through standard channels. Other methods include straw purchases, theft, burglary, or illegal markets. These arming strategies remain hidden to avoid detection, allowing public displays to test boundaries without crossing into prohibited paramilitary conduct. Additional tactics reinforce this pattern of operating at the edge of legality. Large group prayers frequently occupy sidewalks, roadways, and public spaces, impeding normal movement for other citizens. Participants roll out mats and perform congregational prayer in formation, sometimes shutting down streets during peak hours. These actions claim public territory without direct violence, exploiting religious accommodation norms while creating inconvenience and asserting dominance over shared spaces. Such practices align with a broader strategy of advancing group interests through means that avoid outright legal violation but challenge civic order. The overall approach reflects a calculated navigation of Western legal systems. By conducting military-like processions without arms, groups maintain cohesion, project strength, and signal readiness while evading statutes that ban armed paramilitary activity. Private weapon caches and secretive training remain concealed to prevent prosecution. Public actions focus on intimidation, harassment, and symbolic preparation for conflict, framed within religious or cultural expression. In Dearborn and similar communities, these events coincide with chants or rhetoric opposing U.S. foreign policy, particularly amid the Iran war that has elevated retaliation risks from embedded networks. This dynamic creates tension within the United States. The 750,000 Iranian-American population includes a subset with Revolutionary Guard-linked ties, estimated in the low hundreds inside the U.S. and up to 1,000 in Canada. Global mobility allows rapid response to overseas events, and the 2026 conflict has produced documented Iranian civilian and military deaths that can motivate action. Public unarmed formations test the limits of tolerance, projecting warlike intent while the actual arming occurs privately through legal citizenship pathways or illicit means. The strategy exploits the prohibition on private militias by substituting visible ritual for overt military display. The chest beating and marching therefore function as a substitute military assembly. They build discipline, foster emotional commitment, and demonstrate numbers and organization to observers. In historical and doctrinal contexts, such rituals have accompanied mobilization or expressions of defiance. In contemporary America, they occur against the backdrop of active U.S. strikes on Iran. The parades signal that conflict lines extend into the homeland, with the only missing element being the public display of weapons already accessible through citizenship or underground channels. Ultimately, these processions reveal a method of advancing group objectives within restrictive legal environments. They project preparation for confrontation from within American streets while complying with surface-level prohibitions on armed activity. The combination of public ritual, private arming, and public space occupation forms a cohesive approach that leverages American laws to advance intentions rooted in historical frameworks of so-called struggle and conquest. Observers see disciplined, unarmed formations because the law requires it. The underlying capability and intent remain separate and concealed. This pattern underscores the challenges of managing embedded networks during active foreign conflicts, where visible actions stop short of legal thresholds but convey clear messaging of readiness and opposition.